One moment you're on top of the world, your plans are unfolding perfectly. Your future looks secure and everything feels under control, and then in a blink, life takes it all away. No warning, no apology, just silence. What do you do when everything you've worked for disappears overnight? Do you scream, collapse, curse the sky? That was the question a man named Zeno had to answer over 2,000 years ago. Once a wealthy merchant, his fortune vanished beneath the sea in a single shipwreck. But instead of drowning in despair, he discovered something far more powerful than money, something that still speaks to us today, louder than ever. This is the birth of Stoicism, and perhaps the rebirth of you. In the ancient city of Cyprus, sometime around 300 BC, there lived a man named Zeno, a prosperous trader whose fortune came from ships filled with valuable cargo. One day, while sailing from Phoenicia to Piraeus, disaster struck. The sea turned against him. His boat vanished into the waves, dragging his wealth down with it. In a single moment, everything he owned, his trade, his savings, his future was gone. No warning, no mercy, just silence and wreckage where his dreams once floated. Now imagine being in his sandals. You set out on a journey confident and secure, only to return with nothing but the clothes on your back. How would you respond? Would you rage against fate, curse the sea, collapse into despair? For most of us, those reactions would feel justified, natural even. But Zeno wasn't like most people. He didn't just endure the wreck, he built an entire philosophy on top of it. From the ruins of his former life, Zeno gave birth to something extraordinary: Stoicism. It's strange how a single event can shape a lifetime. That one shipwreck didn't just empty his pockets, it rewired his perspective. While others might have wallowed, Zeno took the loss as a teacher. He immersed himself in the teachings of Socrates and other great minds. From them, he crafted a framework for living that embraced hardship, that welcomed the unpredictable, that bowed to nature but never broke beneath it. He taught that we may not command the winds, but we can adjust our sails. To Zeno, the loss of his wealth didn't define him. What mattered was how he responded. Instead of clinging to despair, he chose calm. Instead of bitterness, he chose reason. He understood something most of us overlook, that life at its core is uncertain, and that our peace depends not on what happens to us, but on how we meet it. Today, when we think of Stoics, we often imagine people who are emotionally cold, distant, or unmoved. But true Stoicism isn't about shutting down your feelings. It's about learning to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. Stoicism is a lens, a way to view the world, not a shield to avoid pain, but a compass to navigate it. And this compass has guided people for centuries. From the streets of ancient Athens to modern city skylines, its wisdom remains timeless. Because no matter the era, human beings still wrestle with the same storms: loss, disappointment, injustice, fear. And Stoicism still offers the same answer: composure. What makes Stoicism so enduring is its ability to transform our pain into perspective. It teaches us not to suppress emotion, but to understand it, to sit with it until it tells us something useful. Because every emotion, even the darkest one, carries information. Perspective is everything. Two people can experience the same event and walk away with entirely different conclusions. And that difference often determines who grows and who crumbles. Back then, the Stoics didn't hide their ideas behind the stone gates of elitism. They taught in the open, in the marketplaces, among the people. Philosophy wasn't for the chosen few, it was for anyone with a mind and a soul. Slaves could learn it, emperors did, and both found value. Epictetus began life in chains. Seneca walked the halls of power, and Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire. Different lives, same philosophy. The Stoics didn't preach division, they preached unity. They coined the word cosmopolitan, citizen of the world, not to describe luxury but shared humanity. They imagined a world where people were judged not by wealth or birth, but by virtue and wisdom. Even when society said otherwise, Stoics insisted that women were just as capable of virtue and philosophy as men. Musonius Rufus, teacher of Epictetus, argued passionately for their inclusion. Why should men seek how to live well, but not women? He asked. That question still echoes today. So why do so many people centuries later still turn to Stoicism? Because life hasn't gotten easier. In fact, in some ways, it's harder. We live in a world that promises happiness. If you just buy the right thing, look the right way, or reach the right number in your bank account. And yet so many people still feel empty. Because true peace doesn't come from what you own, it comes from what you understand. Often it's not the event that hurts us, but the fact that we didn't expect it. Rain can be good. It waters crops, cools the air, but if you're caught without an umbrella, you'll curse the sky. Still, we don't fall apart when it rains because we expect it. We've learned that storms come and go. Stoicism teaches us to expect emotional storms the same way we expect weather as part of life. One exercise they practiced was voluntary discomfort, choosing to be uncomfortable on purpose. Not as punishment, but preparation. Try sleeping on the floor, eating plain food, taking cold showers. These aren't acts of suffering, they're acts of strengthening. When you embrace discomfort by choice, you build the mental muscle to handle discomfort by surprise. You prove to yourself that comfort isn't required for peace, that survival and even joy can be found in simplicity. Now think of the world we live in. Ads everywhere, promises of fulfillment. If only you buy, follow, upgrade. From childhood, we're taught what to want by parents, schools, and screens. But rarely are we taught to question where those wants come from. So we internalize expectations that don't belong to us. And when we fall short of them, as we inevitably do, we feel like we've failed. But failure only exists when your definition of success isn't yours to begin with. We must shift the reason we strive, not to impress others, not to meet some invisible standard, but because we want to grow for ourselves. Because every time you attach your efforts to external rewards, applause, money, admiration, you give away control. You let things outside of you decide how you feel inside. That's a trap. Because cars break, houses flood, marriages end. If your peace depends on any of it, your peace is temporary. Even the things that cost nothing, love, attention, praise, can take up too much space in our minds if we let them define us. Seneca once said, "Learning to live with less makes room for what matters." Not less as in deprivation, but less as in clarity. When you remove the noise, the signal becomes clear. What we can control is our response, our attitude, our principles, our effort. That's the root of all Stoic teaching. The dichotomy of control, understanding the line between what belongs to you and what doesn't. Epictetus put it best. The chief task in life is to identify and separate what we can control from what we cannot. The rest, let it go. You are not weak for surrendering what you cannot change. You are wise. We spend so much time chasing outcomes, the job offer, the video going viral, the relationship. But what if instead we measured our lives by the integrity of our process? You don't control the algorithm, you control the work. You don't control the promotion, you control the effort. You don't control who stays or leaves, you control your heart. Take the example of a man working hard for a raise. He brings his progress to his boss, expecting recognition. Instead, he's met with a shrug, no raise, no explanation. He goes home spiraling into doubt. But the truth is, he doesn't know the full picture. Budget cuts, timing, someone else's luck. If he had placed his pride in the quality of his work alone, he could have walked away still proud, still whole. His goal wasn't denied, just delayed. That mindset shift is the essence of Stoicism. True success isn't flashy, it's quiet. A life well lived, even if unnoticed. The Stoic lives with peace not because everything went right, but because they stayed right within themselves. They are guided by 4 virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Wisdom is the ability to pause and choose. Courage is the decision to persist through pain and resist temptation. Temperance is the art of restraint. And justice, the most vital of all, is the belief that we are here to serve each other, not ourselves. Nelson Mandela knew this. While imprisoned for 27 years, he read Marcus Aurelius. And when he emerged, he didn't call for revenge. He called for unity. He knew the past could not be undone, but the future could still be built. And that building required forgiveness. It required vision. It required stoicism. Even in modern therapy, Stoic principles echo through every session. Rational, emotive behavioral therapy, for example, helps people identify and challenge irrational beliefs. It teaches us to replace reaction with reflection. Logotherapy helps people rediscover meaning even in the darkest moments. Because with purpose, there is power. But change isn't immediate. Rewiring your mind takes time. Like all worthy things, it's a process. The old thoughts must be questioned, the new ones practiced. Slowly, consistently, with grace. In the end, Stoicism doesn't promise a perfect life. It promises a clear path. When the storm comes, and it will, you don't curse the wind. You steady the sails. And if the ship sinks, you smile anyway, because you lived with virtue, and that according to the Stoics is the only success that ever truly mattered. So if this message stirred something in you, if even for a moment you paused and saw the world through a different lens, don't let that moment slip away. Subscribe to the channel, not for us, but for you, for the future you who chooses clarity over chaos, who chooses discipline over desire, who chooses to live, not be lived. Each week we dive deeper into timeless Stoic wisdom, retold through stories that speak to modern life. If you're on the path of becoming a stronger, calmer, more grounded version of yourself, this is your place. Hit that subscribe button and let's walk this path together.